Hello and greetings. I do apologize for canceling class this morning, but I woke up pretty sick. Rallied for the afternoon, but couldn't make it in. So sorry about that last minute cancellation. I try to avoid those. Uh, I really feel bad about doing that, but believe me, you didn't want me in the classroom this morning. Anyway, so this weekend is the peer review. What that means is you all have a pretty significant writing assignment. So please don't overlook it just because it's called a peer review. There's a reason that it's worth 20% of your assignment grade and that I'm allowing you to have a full 5 days to complete it. These are really serious exercises. It's the most detailed feedback you are going to get on your draft. I will address the drafts as a whole, but your peer review partner will be forced to spend more time on it than I'll be able to. So really, this is how you get the best feedback, most helpful feedback. So how does the peer review work? We spent some time in class on Tuesday discussing that sample essay I brought in and, for instance, looking at the difference between local and global feedback. We gave some examples of that. Now, I warned you that the peer review is going to be primarily global feedback, and now that I've completed the peer review assignment sheet, I can tell you that I was right. It's my assignment, imagine that. And well, you'll take a look at it. So I broke the assignment, the peer review assignment. It's a letter, which means it should be structured like a letter. You should say, Dear Theo, for instance, or, well, whoever your partner is, obviously. And then you're going to proceed to write a letter of at least 500 words to your partner. I have a list of 8 questions that I need you to answer, some instructions to follow. And here's the gist of it. The gist of it is we're treating these summary and analysis essays as pieces of writing as well as classroom assignments. What I mean by that is, don't get me wrong, a good bit of this peer review is asking, does this piece of writing fulfill the assignment? But I want you as a peer reviewer to approach this as a piece of writing first and an assignment second. What I mean by that is I want you to worry more about the integrity of the piece as an essay rather than something written for a classroom. The difference is that if you're looking at it as something for a classroom, you're going to be focused more on the local issues, grammar, mechanics, spelling, punctuation. Whereas if we're thinking about this as just a piece of writing, you kind of have a lot more leeway to think about what you're interested in, what stands out to you, how would you improve this document if it were just something that you were to read as a helper piece to Kurt Andersen's primary text. So I want you to keep that in mind as you write this letter and as you read this assignment. One of the objectives of this assignment is to get you kind of to think about yourself as a writer, because you are. You're not just a student in my class. You're an actual person who actually writes and communicates. I know, imagine that. And I'm going to treat you like an adult, for better or worse, so here you go. So I'm going to look over this peer review assignment sheet that I just completed, and I'm going to kind of walk through it, and any points that I think might be ambiguous, I'm going to clear up. So, at least 500 words. You're probably saying, this is a 1,000-word essay. How can I write a 500-word peer review of a 1,000-word essay? Easy. I'm requiring you to use an essay format in the letter, which means you need things like topic sentences that introduce a main idea for a paragraph. You need to have a claim. So what's the point of this topic? And then you need to support that claim with evidence. So if, for instance, you begin a paragraph with a topic sentence like, Theo, your paper offers tremendous insight to Andersen's use of public record. You should support it with this evidence, like, for example, yes, I'm saying it again and getting closer to this camera. For example, your third and fourth paragraphs list X, Y, and Z. These points are all drawn from well-known newspapers like, I don't know, what does Kurt Andersen use? And all support Andersen's argument. So, again, you're going to quote your partner here. I would rather if you not quote like entire paragraphs, but don't be afraid to quote longer passages that help support your point. And at the same time, just like you can summarize and paraphrase in your own essay, don't be afraid to summarize and paraphrase your partner's essay. It's a useful exercise given the nature of this assignment. So again, really the goal here is to say something useful as an assessor, as someone who assesses the work, and to support that assessment with evidence. It's like you're justifying a grade, only you don't get to give a grade. Well, you don't have the burden of it. It's not exactly easy. So that's some of the gist of it. Let's see. Oh, you need a thesis statement. We're going to use what's called a roadmap thesis statement. It's a concept you're probably familiar with. I have somewhat of an example in the assignment sheet. The goal of a roadmap thesis statement is to tell our reader what they'll be reading, what order they'll read it in. And of course, this helps us know how to read an essay. It prepares us. It presents the structure, the organization of the paper up front. So you'll say, okay, this paper, this letter will begin with an assessment of the writer's ability to complete the assignment. I'll proceed to assess the writer's style, and it will conclude with a paragraph of next steps. In each case, I will provide evidence to support my claims, helping the writer understand patterns in their work that might be useful for revision, or something like that. But you do need, I wrote out a thesis statement kind of template for you in the assignment sheet, and just use that. Just copy and paste. The essay's strongest moments are blank and blank, but it needs to improve at blank and blank. And obviously fill in those blanks. I'm requiring you to do that. If you want to go up to 3 things on each side of that, 3 strengths and 3 points for improvement, you may. Please don't go longer than that, because at that point you're planning out too complex of an essay, and it's just not going to be useful. I've attached a sample peer review letter. It is not for this assignment. It was for a different assignment from a student at a different school. That said, she does a great job of organizing her paragraphs with topic sentences, supporting evidence, and analysis. So I want you to note how she does that. And she tended to be a bit long-winded, so don't feel compelled to write a 1,300-word peer review letter. Really, it was long. It was too long. But I do want you to get a sense of how you might use supporting evidence to support a claim in a peer review letter, because I know this is an unfamiliar exercise for most of you. It sure as heck would have been for me if I were in your shoes. So I've given you the sample. Again, realize that it's a little bit long, and you don't have to go into that much detail, okay? But really, don't be afraid to use evidence. You really shouldn't. So the actual instructions, now that you have somewhat of an idea of the form that I'm asking you to take, the actual instructions, what you should answer, are near the bottom of the assignment sheet. It's a list of 8 questions. You might consider breaking it into, like, using that maybe to outline 3 or 4 paragraphs of a body of the letter. I think questions 1, 2, and 3, maybe, or 1 through 4 even, could be 1 paragraph. Maybe 5 and 6 and 7 could be another, and then 8 really. 8 should probably be the longest paragraph, because that's next step. So that's like, hey, here's where you are, here's what you should do from this point forward. And again, don't be afraid to include evidence. If you're trying to help your writer improve their style, maybe they're getting a little bit wordy, they might use too many prepositional phrases, hint, double hint, triple hint. You could say, I recommend revising sentences to reduce wordiness. Here's an example of a sentence that I have copied and pasted from your draft and how I have revised it to make it more concise. Maybe you switched it from passive voice to active voice. Hint. So don't be afraid to offer examples in the next steps, really. It's all about examples and showing how to do it. That's one of the goals of this genre. We're offering indirect global feedback using representative examples to offer instruction for the whole piece. It's how the most effective peer review letters work. Believe me, I can promise you that. So make sure to have your draft posted in the discussion forum. It should be there already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a list of peer review partners in the email, okay? In the email. Make sure to reply to your partner's draft on the discussion board. Just reply to their post by class time on Tuesday. We're going to use class time on Tuesday to discuss our peer reviews, which means your partner is going to need some time to read it, digest it, and we're going to have a follow-up conversation about this letter. So along those lines, if you have a laptop or a tablet, it would be helpful to bring it to class on Tuesday so that you can read these peer review letters if you haven't read them yet. But do make an honest effort to get these in a little bit early so that if your partner checks it like Monday night, they would have a chance to read it before class on Tuesday. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. I'll do my best to stay on top of that tomorrow, okay? Sorry again about the last minute cancellation this morning. I really couldn't avoid it. I'll see you on Tuesday and I can't wait to read these essays. Have a great weekend.